Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
I would recommend Angel Care to anybody. They have really helped me regain my strength.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
I couldn't have survived this without Angels Care.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're in the Tiger's Den, located in the basement of Custer Hall on the campus of Fort Hays State University, with the now permanent dean for the Fort Hays State College of Education and Technology, Dr. Paul Adams. Congratulations, Dr. Adams.
Well, thank you very much.
Paul is a professor of physics. In May of 2003, named to a new endowed chair with the Philip Frederick Anschutz, Sue Anschutz Rogers, and Anschutz Family Foundation, when they created the endowed professorship in education in memory of their mother, who was a Fort Hays State alum. Paul heads the Science and Mathematics Education Institute at Fort Hays State, developing the Kansas Academy of Mathematics and Science, and they just had a CAMS summer camp recently. It was established by the legislature in 2006 as the state's premier academic program for the best and brightest of high school students. And Paul was also instrumental in developing Makerspace, which is in Forsyth Library, which we visited on Community Connection. They build and tinker and explore projects and ideas with the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And during our time on Community Connection this time, Paul is involved in a program with educators, that is teachers throughout the area, in a GLOBE program. Gosh, Paul, it's been a quiet summer, hasn't it?
Oh, you bet.
Let's start, if we could, with the GLOBE project.
Well, sure. GLOBE, for people who don't know it, because it's originated in a NASA project, that GLOBE is an acronym for Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. And it's this year, in April, on Earth Day, it celebrated its 20th year. So it's been going for a long time, and it's a unique program. It's not a curriculum, but it's a set of tools that teachers can take where they learn how to take measurements like whether it's rainfall, or right now, like we're talking, they're working on how to identify clouds. This afternoon, we're going to be using infrared thermometers and learning how to get the average temperature of an area that corresponds to a pixel of a satellite. So these are, and we're going to be doing some land cover. But anyway, the idea of this is that the teachers will learn these protocols that are the same by 112 other countries in the world. Mm-hmm. So I know in my experience with GLOBE, I've worked with teachers from Germany, I've worked with teachers from Finland, Denmark, France, Croatia, Estonia. So I've been part of the international aspect of GLOBE. And even here, several years ago, we had our students from like Otis Bison and Felton Middle School. Mm-hmm. We're doing video conferences with students in France and Mexico. Mm-hmm. And so very interesting things that we've done, all related to GLOBE. So what GLOBE comes down to is a way, it fits very well with the change of the state has moved to the next generation science standards, mm-hmm. which puts the emphasis on students being able to do and show their knowledge and ask questions and conduct the investigations. Where GLOBE is good is it provides the tools, the database, and the global connection to ask questions about the local environment. Like here we were talking about something that we may look at is, in Hays we know that we never get the rain because there's this bubble that keeps rain from Hays, but we know in Salina they got plenty of rain last night. We didn't get a drop. Well, is that really true? Now that's one of our rural myths about Hays, but is it really true? And with this, we can ask that question, but we'll have collected, in our case, we have two teachers from Hays that are going through the training, Beth Scheel and Heath Owens, mm-hmm. who are going to be able to use a database that Donna Cooper, who you know very well, was a GLOBE teacher and has probably one of the most complete sets in Kansas of school data to look and see, is that really true? Is the rain here? How does it compare what was happening in Salina? Because maybe it's not true, but that's how we can do it and how kids could ask those questions. Or as we were talking, we have some teachers from Wichita that came here, and they were looking at latitude, taking at our latitude and making environmental measurements of temperature, pressure, surface temperature, land cover, and then going to the southern hemisphere and finding a partner school there to say, let's talk with each other. So it will enhance the ability of teachers to make the curriculum change to what the next generation science standards are that are more commonly in Kansas, the Kansas College and Career Ready standards, but make it possible for kids to ask the questions and do the investigations. So
And
it's really
hopefully to encourage environmental awareness on the part of their students then.
Yeah, and that is a big part of GLOBE, is there is that social awareness, because the problems are driven by, I want to understand my community, my environment, and so we can do some measurements. And we even have a teacher, David Wilderman over in Ellis, who's also, he's a GLOBE teacher, and I was looking, he was measuring some things in September. I'm not sure what he was measuring, but we have teachers in the area, and we're adding more to it to build up this network that then becomes part of a whole global network of teachers and students caring enough to take measurements, understand the environment, and ask the questions, and maybe even make some suggestions, recommendations. We'll see where it goes as we go
Talk
forward.
a little, if you would, Dr. Adams, about the CAMS program and your recent CAMS camp.
Okay, well, and I was one of the, the CAMS program is doing very well, and Roger Shefrick, who's the director, is doing a fantastic job. I mean, he tells me the numbers are going up, so, and that's good to hear, because I've been kind of watching on the edge since I've been changing positions. But I did get to help out with two of the camps that CAMS sponsored, and these were designed for students entering the 10th, 11th grade, I believe. And they were coming here where faculty at the university put on some really fascinating camps. There was one on the chemistry of cooking. I know that was done by Dr. Dorn, and it was the kids were learning about how do you make the ideal crepe. It's not just mix it up and throw it on the skillet. I mean, there's temperature, there's a chemical reaction that goes on with your crepe. Maybe people don't want to hear this at breakfast, but if you really look at the food, there's a lot of chemistry going on. So that was one. There was another one on Java programming that I heard the kids enjoyed. They were programming, writing the program to play chess, which is fun. And I know the Raspberry Pi, where they were learning how to develop their own website. And Raspberry Pi, in case people don't know, is a computer that's about this big. That's about all the bigger it is.
Wow.
And its memory is an SD card, those sorts of things you use in your cameras. And the monitor, you just plug it into your TV. There's a little output, and you can plug it into the Ethernet. But the whole computer is about that big. So this is part of a kind of a new, kind of fits within the maker space that goes on. And then myself and Dr. Buffington, we did one on energy, and we had the kids building a wind farm that was out there. And then I was working with Dr. Maceberg in physics, and we were doing high altitude balloons. And for the first time, we ended up flying through a thunderstorm, which was kind of unique. And our balloons, we recovered everything fine. We didn't launch in the storm, but we happened to hit it on our way.
And they survived the storm.
They survived the storm, and everything came out. But those have been great camps. They're partly to attract kids to the CAMS program. And the other part is, I think, which is very good, is to have them see what's available here at Fort Hays and look at the talented faculty that we have in the STEM disciplines and what they could do by coming to Fort Hays.
Now, as the dean,
Yes.
you were interim dean, of course, since May, but now you are the dean of the College of Education and Technology.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. What is it?
Yeah,
Fort
well,
Hays State?
and I'm gonna I've got to change one thing, is that in last month that we changed that we'll actually become the College of Education, because one of Dr. Martin's initiatives is to re-engineering, and so we used to have technology as part of our college, but they're moving on to another, or within the university we're looking seriously at forming a fifth college that'll focus on science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and so I'm now just the College of Education. So I just want to put that there. I mean, that's okay.
That's one less responsibility then,
That's right. That's probably good at that.
That's a good thing.
Although I like playing the technology area, but that's okay. But the College of Education is that we have really focus on undergraduate preparation for people who are going to be teachers, both elementary and secondary. And that's a core piece of that program. So we produce a large number of elementary teachers, and our program is both here on campus. We do it through the virtual college network, and then we've been experimenting with and are pretty pleased with what we call a teacher residency program, where paras who are working in elementary schools are receiving their training, and we've modified the curriculum to match up their field placement and doing it. So we're growing a different way of doing it that's meeting the needs of rural communities where it's hard to get teachers out there. So people who are place-bound for their life purposes, their family, whatever it may be, we're able to do more with that. So that's one part of the program. That's a teacher education program that we have. And we also have special education as part of that, and some English as a second language instruction. And then we have our advanced program, the advanced education programs, which that picks up a couple different things. We have the master's thing, so a lot of it, I think we were looking, and there's something like 70% of the administrators in public schools in Kansas have come through Fort Hays in one way or the other. So,
wow.
So we have a major role to play on that, according to that statistic. We also are part of the Transition to Teaching program to help address the state's needs for teachers. We have in the secondary level people who are career changers later in their career, and they said, I want to go into the classroom, make a difference. I want to do something different. And so we have a program, and that's actually been very strong. We're upwards over, probably in the program right now, there are 200 people in progress that are employed in the school district and doing basically an apprenticeship model where they're teaching, but we're providing the professional learning as part of their coursework to help them be ready to take over the classroom by themselves after the completion of the program. So it's very cool with that. But then within this advanced program to do things like counseling is there, instructional technology, a master's focus on that, library science. So kind of the whole thing that for a school, the administrative part or the infrastructure support, as well as a basic master's of science and education so that teachers can improve all the time. And a new feature within that advanced programs is the HESA program that started, really has been in progress for about 2 years, but is beginning to show people are graduating. The HESA is higher education, and it's for higher education people. So it would be like people in student affairs, so it's higher education student affairs area, or people want to be a registrar. Those kind of middle management type of folks that need specialized training to deal with the students who come through higher education. And that program is taking off. It was originally proposed by former President Hammond. That was kind of his last hurrah, the program that he wanted. But since that has started, it's begun to grow, and we're going to be beginning to staff it more because it's really beginning to take off. And it's an exciting new program I think will have interest nationally as well as internationally eventually as we go forward.
Wow, Dr. Adams, it sounds like the College of Education is covering a lot of different areas and potential educators in a lot of different areas.
And we definitely are. When you look at Fort Hays, there are other schools out there in the state who will remain nameless, I think. But I believe Fort Hays is the best, but we're also very entrepreneurial or innovative to try to address the needs that we need in our section of the state, and with our student body, particularly with elementary, even across nationally. We have a lot of students that are placed around the states, and we have even we placed a student this last year in Germany to do her student teaching at a DOEDA, Department of Defense school, and so we're looking at international scope. So Fort Hays may be here in Hays, but we're everywhere. Anywhere you go, you're going to see us.
Yes. So, discuss education in the United States for a moment, Dr. Adams, when it comes to perhaps the ranking of education students worldwide, the disparities we see between income areas and so forth.
Sure.
It's just kind of a broad overview.
Kind of a broad overview. Well, if we, there's a couple ways to look at it. As we start looking at student outcomes, and that's usually the indicator to say how well a nation is doing. You know, we aren't at the top, and we're kind of in the middle of the pack area. So, but some of that may be the way that the populations are being measured. They're looking at it. But I think the other part has to do with some of the countries that are very top are like, Finland has done outstanding, and you would think Finland, and of course we hear, like Singapore has done well, and those other countries, and they do well. But part of the reason I think they do is because the education is at a core value of that country, and and I believe in our country, at least when we started, since we just had the 4th of July and celebrating the formation of our country, is that we had education as a piece of it. But I think in the recent turn of events and things that we've kind of lost a focus about, we value it, because in Kansas right now you read about there's a shortage of teachers in Kansas, and I've heard that there's billboards, so I've heard there are billboards advertising for teachers in Kansas to go to Missouri, and now whether that's because Missouri's better, I don't know. That's not really it. It's the problem is that people that we haven't as a country respected what a teacher does, and it's a tough thing, it's a tough job, and because of that we don't have enough people maybe going into teaching, which doesn't help it. At the federal level, there's always fights about how do we keep the funding going, what programs do we keep support for, and at the state level, which we can go there if you want, we have issues about the value in the I think the eroding of the teaching profession, and I think that affects, that's part of it. And when I say eroding the teaching profession, whether it's changing to a funding formula that may not be equally fair across the state, so we have inequities across the state. If you come from a richer district, maybe that's good for you, but if you're a poor district, you could be in trouble.
Those block grants.
Those block grants. I don't think they've been fully thought out yet.
Well, and the constant barrage of negativity against teachers and the profession that comes from those in power.
And I think, and that's really has happened. I mean, and we'll talk nationally. Nationally we hear a lot about teachers aren't doing their job, that if we're failing these tests, it's not bad. What we forget is that, teachers need the help of other people. Parents have to be a part of this equation. It's easy for people to say, oh, those teachers are bad, but are you going to step up and go into the classroom to make a difference? Do you have skills, time, talent, or treasure, it comes back to that you could do to help make it happen? Because you put one person with 25 or 30 middle school kids, that's a brave job. I mean, it's probably one of the toughest jobs.
And that's exactly what they'll be facing this fall in USD 489.
That's right.
In some
classrooms. Although I think, I'll save answering that hat. I have a different hat and wear that. Although I think the district will do.
Let's bring it down to a local level now, as one of the newly elected members to the USD 489 school board.
Yeah. Well, and I ran for the school board because I come back to what I just said: time, talent, treasure. If I've got time's kind of in short supply, but I value what the school's done, because I have 2 of my children have graduated, 2 are still in school, so we've been here a long enough time. I felt it was time that if I had some insights or had some thoughts that I could make a difference, then I should step up and do it. And so I believe that's a civic duty that we should all accept that, because I think our schools are pretty good, but it takes people on the board to help establish the policies and set the goals of where we want the school district to move towards, and I think it's a good time to step up and do that.
But if I may say, Dr. Adams, time commitment is very important, and you
very
have
important.
very little of it to
Right.
offer, but you also have the expertise and the background and the knowledge to bring so much to our district and board that we thank you for your service and your
Well,
commitment.
thank you, and I'm making the time to make it happen.
Dr. Paul Adams, the Dean of the College of Education at Fort Hays State University, our community connection. Thanks for watching.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
There's not any words to describe their kindness.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
They saved my life.